There are certain wonders in this world that if you don't think about, don't focus on, you'll totally miss. But yet when you stop and look into them, you see wonders that are beyond human comprehension. Let me share with you an example. Let's talk about distance. From here to the wall might be a distance of 35 feet. Not so far. From New York City to California is a much greater distance, some 3,000 miles. If you get in a jet flying 500 miles an hour, it still takes 6 hours to traverse that large distance because it is an entire continent. But when you talk about distance in terms of the known universe, those kinds of distances are almost minuscule. The distance from the Earth to the Moon is about 250,000 miles. But the distance from the Earth to the Sun is some 91 or 93 million miles, depending on the season. But to give you an appreciation of how vast that distance is, let me give you an example. They say that the core temperature of the Sun is some 17 million degrees Fahrenheit. And they say that if you were to take a grain of sand, heat it up to that temperature, and bring it back to planet Earth, everything within a 60-mile radius would erupt into flame. There's so much heat, so much energy contained in one grain of sand heated up to that temperature that everything would combust. But because this sun is so vastly spread apart, because it's so far in the sky, all of the energy that it emits spreads out. Some 2/billionth of 1% actually hit the Earth and are converted into energy. And so it's a balmy 80, 85 degrees on our planet. But let's imagine for a minute that it wasn't 91 million miles. Let's imagine it was only 45 million miles. What would life on this planet be like? Well, as you probably know, rock tends to melt at 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Life on the planet wouldn't be. The planet would be uninhabitable. But because it's so far apart, because the sun is so far out there, the light dissipates and it's comfortable, inhabitable on our planet. But when you discuss the universe, 91 million miles is not a great distance. The closest star to our own sun is Alpha Centauri, and when astronomers try to measure the distance between Alpha Centauri and our sun, they no longer can use miles. I mean, the numbers are just too cumbersome, they're just too large. So science transfers to a different system of measure the speed of light. Light travels at approximately 186,000 miles a second. If you take the seconds, 60 of them in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, you now have a system of measurement to measure great distances. So for instance, from the Earth to the Moon, 1.25 seconds. That's how long it takes light to travel. From the Earth to the Sun, 8 minutes. Light traveling at 186,000 miles a second, hurtling at great speeds, it only takes 8 minutes. Would you like to know the amount of time that it takes from light to travel from Alpha Centauri to our sun? They say that it takes 1,500 days, 4 years, because there's such a vast expanse, so much distance between our own sun and Alpha Centauri that it takes 4.5 years for that light to spread. It's a number, it's a size, it's an expanse that's beyond human comprehension. However, in our own Milky Way galaxy, there aren't 2 stars. Matter of fact, there aren't even a dozen, not even 100. Scientists now measure that within the Milky Way galaxy, there are approximately 100 billion stars, each as powerful as our sun or more powerful, each spread up as far apart as the sun and Alpha Centauri, spread across this unimaginable, wide, vast expanse called the Milky Way galaxy. But when scientists revert to parables, then it's time to really carefully pay attention. You see, science gives us a parable to understand the size of the known universe. If you take our Milky Way galaxy, as wide and as vast as it is, unimaginably large, and if you'd like to compare it to the known universe, astronomers tell us it's the equivalent of comparing a coffee cup to the United States of America. because in the known universe, comprised of some 13 billion light years of ever-expanding space, is 100 billion galaxies, each galaxy containing 100 billion stars spread across an expanse that's ever expanding of the known universe. And when you think about that, there's one profound concept that a person should come to. That concept is, what was before this? There was a time when God said it should be, and there was light. God said it should be, and the sun and the moon and the stars and the universe came into being. But the moment before God said those words, there was nothing. But you see, nothing means absolute absence of anything. My daughter, when she was 6 years old, she was learning in school about creation, and she came back to me and she said, Abba, I get it. Before God made the world, there were no trees, there were no rivers, there was nothing. I get it, but Abba, what color was it? And I want to explain to you what she was asking. You see, if you close your eyes and imagine the moment before God created the world, what do you see? Typically, we see black. But you see, black is a color. Vacuum implies physicality. And before God said there should be, there was nothing. There were no molecules, no atoms, no quarks. From absolute absence of physicality, God said there shall be light, and 100 billion galaxies, each containing 100 billion stars, came into existence. And that concept is heady. Why? Because I stand in front of that very same God. I stand in front of God and I offer my prayers, I make my requests. I, little me, have a conversation with the Creator of the heaven and the earth, speaking directly to that Creator, asking Him for my needs. And when I contemplate the might, the majesty, the glory of my Creator, it changes my understanding and changes my relationship. But if you'd like to fundamentally understand who your Creator is, let me share with you one more observation. On a nice, quiet Sunday morning, I'd like you to go to a bowling alley, pick up a 16-pound bowling ball. Now this part you have to do very carefully. Hold it off to the side over here and hold it out for about 10 minutes. Now, it's very important that you do it out to the side over here, because after about 10 seconds, it's going to come crashing down. If we're over here, it would smash your toes. Now, why is it that you're not going to be able to hold a 16-pound bowling ball out there for 10 minutes? Because it's quite heavy. Well, here's an observation. If here's the sun, and then we have a string of 8 or 9 planets, depending on who's counting. If here is the sun, and here is the earth, why doesn't the earth just sort of float away? 120 million miles, it's kind of chilly. 150 million miles, it's kind of like negative 50 degrees. 250 million miles, you drop a tennis ball and it cracks. 400 million miles, absolute zero. Why doesn't the earth just float away into the vast expanse of the universe? Now, the answer to that question is 6th grade science. In the world is a property called gravity. Newton's law, based on the distance and the mass, the sun is very, very massive. The earth is somewhat massive. Each has a gravitational force. Each exerts it, and the sun keeps the earth where it's supposed to be. Would you like to gander a guess at the weight of planet Earth? I've looked up the number many a times, but it's such a large number it has no meaning. But here's the point. On the planet are trees and horses and elephants. It's a very heavy planet. Yet God created a force called gravity that keeps it where it's supposed to be, keeps an entire planet exactly where it's supposed to be. I could walk through it. There are no cables, no wires, yet that force keeps it where it's supposed to be. And when you study the vastness of this world, when you study those laws of physics that we take as given, and you understand that all of them were brought into existence by my Creator, you begin to get a glimpse, a very small glimpse of the might, the majesty, the glory of our Creator. And then when you understand that I have access I can speak directly to my Creator, not up in the heavens, God, can you hear me? But right here, when you understand that concept, you understand the greatest gift given to man. I was given the right, the opportunity to speak to my Creator, to make my requests, to speak directly to Him, ultimately to develop an understanding, a relationship, to understand what He is, what He gave to me, and to allow me to grow and become the person I was created to be.